Page 6 of lines. Number 3. A line has an equation y equals 3 times quantity x minus 6 divided by 2. Now that doesn't look at all like we're used to, right? Write the equation in the form y equals mx plus c. Okay, so this is kind of an algebra problem to start out with, right? So what we could do is we could first distribute the 3 on the top. So instead of putting 3 times quantity x minus 6, we would kind of like it to look more like mx plus c. And the way we do that is we distribute the 3 to the x, 3x, and then to the negative 6, which would be minus 18 divided by 2, right? Then we say, okay, if I have divided by 2 underneath both of those, I could separate it into 2 separate fractions, like that, right? Now, 3 halves x minus 18 over 2, I am already in the form mx plus c, although it's not simplified. If I wanted to simplify it, I could put 3 halves in my calculator, find that it's 1.5x. I could put 18 divided by 2 in the calculator, find that it's equal to 9. Write down the gradient of the line. Now that we're in slope-intercept form or gradient-intercept form, we know that the slope is 1.5. Write down the y-intercept. Now that we're in gradient-intercept form, we know that the y-intercept is negative 9. Find the point of intersection of the line with the x-axis. Okay, now we're back to the calculator. One of the reasons why gradient-intercept form is so important in this class is because in order to put the function in the calculator, we need the y value on the left by itself and everything else on the right side, and that is the definition of gradient-intercept form for the line, right? So I'm going to put the equation of my line, 1.5x minus 9 in for y1, and then I'm going to graph it. And then I'm going to do second calc 0 because it wanted to know the point of intersection of the line with the x-axis, also known as the x-intercept. It's also called second calc 0. Let's see, I'm going to put first the cursor on the left side of the intersection, which it already is. I hit enter. And then I'm going to put it on the right side of the intersection. So I move it to the right side with the right arrow. And then I hit enter. And then it asks me for a guess. The guess can be anywhere because there's only one intersection. And it turns out that the intersection is 6, 0. 6, 0. Oops. Okay. Now there's some hints here. It says that the x-intercept is when y equals 0 and can be found with the GDC using second calc 0. Okay, yeah, we just used second calc 0 to do that. If you put the coordinates of 2 points into lists, L1 and L2, you can find the line equation through them with stat calc ln reg. Okay, that's something that we've learned in the last few problems also. So maybe that's a key to doing this next problem. It says that the line AB joins the points 2, negative 4, and 1, 1, and we want to find the gradient in between them. Of course, you can use this formula here. Another way of doing it is stat calc ln reg. I'm just going to do stat calc ln reg, okay? Stat, edit, and I'm going to put these 2 points in there. So one of the points is 2, negative 4. The other point is 1, 1. So I put the x coordinates on the left side, the y coordinates on the right side. Make sure you don't get them mixed up. Okay, and there we go. And then I just do stat calc ln reg. And go down to calculate. And it looks like my equation is negative 5x plus 6. So I'm going to write that down. Negative 5x plus 6. So my gradient is negative 5. And it says find the equation. Oh, I just did. Okay. So actually it's good that we went ahead and did ln reg because it did both parts of the problem, answered both parts of the problem immediately. Number 5. The line PQ joins the points 1, 3 and 2, 5. Find the gradient PQ, etc. So it's the same thing, right? So we could do this with ln reg also. So I'm going to put 1, 3 in here. And I'm going to put 2, 5. and I'm going to do graph. Oh, not graph. I'm going to do stat calc lin reg. Stat calc lin reg number 4. And then I go down to calculate, enter. And it tells me that the equation of the line is going to be 2x plus 1. So obviously the gradient of the line would be 2. Find the gradient of all lines perpendicular to PQ. Okay, so just we need the negative reciprocal of the slope 2. So that would be the perpendicular, which would be negative 1/2. Find the equation of the line perpendicular to PQ that passes through 0, 2. Okay, so 0, 2 is this point right there, right? Did you notice that they gave us the y-intercept? So this is actually leading you right to gradient intercept form, right? Because gradient intercept form, you need the slope and you need the y-intercept. We know the slope is negative 1/2, right? We just don't know the y-intercept, but they just gave it to us. It's 2, okay? The other way you could do it is you could do a drawing, and so you draw the point 0, 2, and then you draw a triangle with the slope negative 1/2, which is rise negative 1, run 2, so it's kind of like that, right? And then you could find another point, such as, you know, negative 2, 3, and then you put both of those in lin reg, but they were actually trying to be nice here, and they gave you the y-intercept, right? Okay, number 6. Line L1 has a gradient 3 and is perpendicular to L2. Write down the gradient of L2. Okay, so if line 1 has a gradient of 3, then L2 must have a gradient of negative inverse of 3, which is negative 1/3. Okay, negative 1/3. Line L2 passes through the point 5, 1. Find the equation of L2. Okay, now in this case, they weren't nice. They did not give us the y-intercept. So, but we could draw a picture of the line and then easily figure out a second point, and then we could use stat calc lin reg, right? The key to finding the equation of a line easily with the calculator is to find 2 points. And once you find 2 points, you can always find the equation with stat calc lin reg, okay? So let's find the first point, which is 5, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. And we're going to use the gradient negative 1/3, which is rise of negative 1, run of 3. So that basically means it's going down, down. Okay. And so now we have 2 points because we already have 5, 1. We just found a point 2, 2, right? And we also found another point, which is 8, 0. Okay, so any one of those points could be paired with 5, 1 to find the equation of the line. We do that with the calculator, stat calc lin reg. So we're going to do stat edit, and we're going to put 2, 2 for our first point. And our second point, we're going to put 5, 1. So we got 2, 2 and 5, 1. And then we're going to do stat calc lin reg, which is number 4. And then we go down to calculate. And it gives us y equals negative 0.333x plus 2.67. And let's check to make sure that the slope indeed matches the slope that we had. And this is negative 1/3. Negative 0.333 is also negative 1/3, so that matches. So I think we're okay. So we found the equation of L2. It's right there. Find the x-coordinate of the point where L2 meets the x-axis. Okay, so now we want to know the x-intercept. And somebody asked me in class, how do you dump this equation, negative 0.333x plus 2.67, directly into the y equals screen? It's kind of handy, right? It's not actually that easy to do, so I sometimes just type it in because it's kind of hard to remember. But what you could do is you could do stat calc ln reg, which you do here, and then you go to store reg equation, and you can put here y1, for example, and it'll store it in y1. Now, how do you put type y1 there? You need to put, so you go vars, and you go to yvars, and then you go into functions, and then you select y1, and then it puts y1 there. Now when you do calculate, it'll show you this output, and then if you go into y equals, it actually has put the equation in there. You can't really see it because it's like so long, but now if you graph it, you'll see that it does graph the equation. So we'll graph it. So this is my, do you see how it matches with the drawing I made? And now I'm going to do second calc 0 so that I could find that intersection point. So now I'm slightly to the left, so I hit enter. Not slightly to, I'm way to the left, but that's fine. You don't have to be slightly to the left. It could be way to the left. Now I'm going to go to the right. Go on to the right. Okay, and then I hit enter again. And the guess doesn't really matter where you're at. Don't even move, I just hit enter. And the answer is 8, 0. Okay, 8, 0. All right, last one, number 7. Find the equations of these lines in the form mx plus c. And like I said, the easiest way on the exam to do this is to just pick out 2 points. Like I'm going to pick out that point and that point. I'm going to pick out that point and that point. I'm going to pick out, I don't know, this point and this point. Okay, just pick out 2 points that are exactly on the crosshairs of the grid, and then you just put it into stat calc ln reg. So like the first one, I'm going to put -1, 0 and 0, 1. So I'm going to put -1, 0 and 0, 1. Oops. I want this to be 1. I want this to be 0. Okay, -1, 0 and 0, 1. I'm going to graph. Or I'm not going to graph, I'm going to do stat calc ln reg. Stat calc ln reg, which is number 4. And the answer is 1x plus 1. So it's y equals 1x plus 1. Okay? Next one. Stat, edit. Put -1, 2. And then the other point would be 1, 0. Stat, calc, ln reg. So that would be equal to -1x plus 1. Now I'm going to do the next one. So it'll be stat edit -2, 0 and 2, -2. And that will do stat calc ln reg. And it gives us y equals -0.5x minus 1. Okay? And if I look at the slopes, I see a positive slope here, a negative slope here, a negative slope here. Those all make sense. My y-intercepts also look like they match. So I think those are okay. So that was it for this page, which was page 6.